Desde abajo se defiende a todo mundo. Radio Jornalera, donde tu voz encuentra un eco amplificado, donde tus derechos salen a la luz y disipan el miedo, donde tus aportes a la sociedad se evidencian, donde se reconoce que tus luchas reivindican derechos para todas y todos. Radio Jornalera destaca a la gente humilde que pelea por sus derechos a pesar de sus circunstancias de despojo y marginación. Eleva a los individuos y sus luchas y muestra cómo la clase trabajadora y humilde puede ser agente de cambio cuando se organiza, cuando se defiende y cuando tiene una lectura correcta de su propia realidad. Radio Jornalera provee el espacio para aprender de los invitados e invitadas sobre sus vidas, lo que les motiva a seguir adelante, sus virtudes y desafíos y hasta su música y poesía favorita. Radio Jornalera recalca el trabajo de activistas, organizadores, educadores y algunas celebridades, sus causas, sus campañas, sus estrategias, sus tácticas y los reveses más duros en el perenne quehacer de formar líderes para hacer el mundo más justo, más humano, más inclusivo. Para cambiar el mundo, primero hay que conocer a las personas que sobreviven las injusticias y políticas públicas groseras. Hay que apoyar y solidarizarse con sus luchas, porque desde abajo se defiende a todo mundo. Radio Jornalera, donde los anhelos y el sentir del pueblo trabajador cobran vida.
Welcome, family. Welcome, folks, back to the Archange Antoine report. I'm Archange Antoine. Today, we're going to talk about a very important topic. Bloomfield, New Jersey is back on the news. Recently, there's been an anti-Black racist incident that took place in Bloomfield with Patrick Thompson, who is a Black firefighter who was handed a noose by one of his white colleagues, Firefighter Coffee. And this has really got everybody up in angry and determined to see changes in Bloomfield. Those of us who are aware of what's been happening in Bloomfield over the last decade or two knows that Bloomfield has been in the news consistently for violence against police. You see targeting against police. You see whole economic system being ran by tickets. And today the community is in outrage, from young people who are at Bloomfield College of Montclair University to senior citizens who have spoken outright around what's happening. Today, we are addressing a noose that was given to a Black firefighter in 2025. And for those of you who do not understand, a noose is not harassment. It is not a joke. It is part of a long history in America of centuries of lynching Black people publicly. These were done in support of the state, by domestic terrorists, of Ku Klux Klan, and other local organizations in support of many communities. And today, we are having this conversation, talk a little more about it from some community leaders. But first, let's watch this clip to give us a better understanding.
What I described happened to a T.
Firefighter Patrick Thomas just saw this surveillance video taken in this Bloomfield firehouse in November of 2023. You can see his colleague, Walter Coffey, tying a rope.
When I watched the video, it shows him actually tying it, looking at it, admiring his work, making sure it tightens and everything like that, swinging it around. And then when I finally walked back into the firehouse, he tosses it to me. I remember catching it and looking at it and being in disbelief. I asked him, I was like, yo, what's this? And he said, oh, I want you to figure out what kind of knot this is. And I told him, I said, I know exactly what kind of knot it is. This is what people used to hang my ancestors from trees. I said, do you think this is?
You just seen it for yourself, folks. 2025. You have a Black man who's fighting for his life, fighting for his career, because Firefighter Coffee thought It was a joke to play around with a noose. The community is in outrage. They're calling for an investigation. They're calling for the firing of Coffee. They have a list of demands that they're sharing. The people of New Jersey have been showing up and supporting him in their community events, as well as coming to the council meeting recently. But the work still needs to move along. Today, I want to bring forth Justin Bullock, who is a community leader, business owner, who is an entrepreneur and a civil rights and human rights activist in Bloomfield, who is going to talk a little more. Justin, we're
Hello,
happy that you're with us, my brother.
how you
Appreciate
doing?
you being here. Now, Justin, you grew up in Bloomfield. You raised in Bloomfield. You are the original OGs of Bloomfield.
That is correct.
So thank you for joining us. When you read these demands and when you saw this incident happening, what was the effects upon you? What was going on with your mind?
Yeah, so great question. Thank you guys for having me. I mean, I was shocked even just seeing the video again. It's like, wow, like that was a real noose, tied to like an expert, knew how to tie that. So it's just very surprising, seeing that. So and just the way it was thrown at firefighter Thomas, it was, very intentional. There were several other firefighters around who it could have been thrown to. Not that I would recommend that at all, but it was just very surprising to see firefighter Thomas be singled out like that, which we all know what that meant. So, I mean, I still get upset even just watching the video. I've watched it one or two times. I try not to look at it because it does make me upset.
Mm,
But it's just very disappointing to see. As you said, Bloomfield is really the only home I know. I grew up here. I attended the public school district since first grade. I graduated Bloomfield High School in 2016. And then I became a real estate agent. I like to consider myself a housing advocate more so, just assisting families secure housing in the area, but also giving them advice, also helping investors come into the area. So
mm,
I see the value in Bloomfield. I love my hometown, and to think something like that could happen, you know, in the fire department, as
mhm,
you had mentioned, we are used to, unfortunately, kind of some aggression by the police in Bloomfield. And I don't want to say all of them. We have some great officers in Bloomfield. But it was an unfortunate conversation we had to have. I believe this was back in, 2014, 2016. There was a Vice documentary released about driving while black in
yeah, yeah,
Bloomfield.
we all remember that.
So to see this from the fire department was like, wow, this is concerning.
And you're also part of Black Citizens of Bloomfield. You helped organize one of the largest events I've seen in Bloomfield in reference to this anti-Black racist incident that happened with firefighter Patrick Thomas. And I know that recently you came out with a list of demands for our audience. Help us understand, what are those demands?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just get them pulled up. So one of the reasons we had that event this past week was because we felt the need to come together as a community. I do want to clarify one thing. This
Yeah.
event happened late in 2023 and it got swept under the rug. So
Mm,
that's why this has become such an issue now, is because firefighter Coffee still has not been fired. We've had really three mayor administrations. Kind of sweep this under the rug, and for it to still not have been solved, for there still to be no justice for firefighter Patrick. That's why we as a community are coming together now, because we have seen this before with certain police officers where, you know, they are not held accountable. And I think as a community, and this is not just the Black members of Bloomfield, we're a very diverse town. We've got every group of ethnicity you can think of, and everybody wants justice in this situation for firefighter Patrick. So, some of the demands we have, the first one is to fire Walter Coffey with no pension or payout or transfer. So I know one of the main things we're all concerned about is him just being transferred to another fire department. I believe there was a situation where a Nutley firefighter was in a domestic violent dispute, and he got transferred to Bloomfield. So we do see this happening where, a public servant does something that is not just, and then instead of holding them accountable, they are just transferred to another department to kind of sweep it under the rug. We're not looking for that here.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
We feel in this situation, Walter Coffey should be held accountable. He's a public servant. We pay him with our tax dollars, so
Mhm.
he does not deserve a pension. And I don't think any other fire department, whether it's Nutley, East Orange, or any any town in West Orange, should have somebody like that in their department.
Mhm.
So our second demand is, this was a leadership failure, so we're requesting the removal of the fire chief, Lou Venezia. So this culture didn't emerge out of anywhere.
Mm.
For a situation like this to happen, and for the fire chief to have not even spoken out to his community yet, from my understanding, there's been no statements from him. He's not made any comments about it. And I've been able to speak with some residents as well who've had some aggressive situations with him. So I'm not sure we have the best leadership even in our fire department. And I think this situation just speaks to it and confirms it in a lot of ways.
And this Lou Venezia is also a relative of the former mayor, now Assemblyman Venezia, correct?
That is correct. And that is our next demand is, former mayor and now assemblyman Mike Venezia should really resign. And to give you some context on why we're asking for that is Mike Venezia has been the mayor, I want to say at least since 2012, at least since I've been in high school, and I've been out of high school for 10 years now. Mike Venezia has been the mayor. And with that, we have seen a lot of that, like I said, the anti-Black policing, this situation, and countless others, even some of my own experiences in the town, has happened under his leadership.
Mm.
So, what's surprising is he's an assemblyman for a predominantly Black district in Essex County. So, I'm confused why we should have an assemblyman who allows this type of behavior, but when it comes to him getting elected, he needs Black representatives to vote for him to win these elections. And
Excellent point.
there hasn't really been a statement from him really condemning this. They've used the excuse that there's an ongoing investigation, that they can't talk about it. But I think we see that contradicted because Mayor Mundell recently did release a statement condemning it. Now, she's a bit too late, I will be honest, and we'll kind of get into that because it was more of a PR cover up. But for him to say that he's never been able to speak on it because of the lawsuit, we know that's not true. You can condemn racism in a noose even if there's a lawsuit going on. So
Wow. You bring up an excellent point because we've seen both the mayor, even though she's been late, she spoke on it, and we've seen the Senator Timberlake speak
mhm.
on it. However, we haven't heard anything from any of the assembly people. So that's an excellent point. And to have such Bloomfield on a national level and folks talking about this incident and zero voices from Bloomfield and Mike Venezia being from Bloomfield, that's a little disappointing.
It's really concerning as somebody who has voted for him to be the mayor. I actually, in my first election, I voted for Mike. This was in 2016. So, and I'm pretty sure, like I said, he was going into his second term at that
Mhm.
point. So, that's why it's disappointing because he has had the support of the Black citizens and community in Bloomfield. Like I said, this is not just a Black community issue. There's plenty of people who are upset about this from different backgrounds who have supported Mike in his, politics career, and we don't feel that support has been returned to us now.
Yeah,
So.
that's good. And just any other issues that are any other demands?
Yeah, so a few more. So we also feel this situation calls for a full attorney general investigation across all township departments. As you know, we spoke about the policing issue in Bloomfield. Now we have the fire department, which it still really hurts me to say that. I think, fire is such an extreme that, you don't see fires every day in Bloomfield. But you want to trust that if there was a emergency situation and you were trapped in a house, I would not want Walter Coffey coming to save
Mm.
me. So that's why this is such a reason that we're looking for the Attorney General to investigate this, because we really want to root out this problem in our town because it's gone on for far too long and we live in a great community. And I do want to reinforce that,
Mhm, mhm.
if me and my family have lived here, 20 plus years, and, we love our town and our community. We have great neighbors, but we still deal with problems like this. And I think all of the community wants to see this addressed. So we're hoping that the Attorney General could help us out with that. And the instance the Attorney General, for whatever reason, doesn't comply, we were asking for the Essex County prosecutor to take a look at these different departments.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's also important. I think a full investigation, because sometimes people's own internal investigations don't work out. They really protect people. And we don't get a chance to see what the results and the findings were from an independent source. So good point.
Correct. Yeah, we see a lot of protecting especially of these police officers and these firefighters. So we're hoping something could be done there.
Hmm.
Another demand we have is to publish employee complaints.
Mm,
So basically, we're looking for all reports of employee complaints that involve bias, harassment, racism, or any intimidation. Those should be reported within 10 days. Now, names and addresses should be removed, but as a township, we should know which department these issues are coming from, because
hmm.
they do
Hmm.
affect all of us. And as many of you know, Essex County is one of the highest counties as far as property taxes in the state. So we pay a lot of money for these people to be employed. A lot of them do great work. However, those who cannot leave the racism inside their own home and decide to bring it into a public workspace
Yeah.
should be held accountable, and the citizens of the town should be made aware of that.
Good point. Good point.
And our final point, which is the most important point for me, which I can't believe still has not been done yet, is a public apology to firefighter Patrick Thomas.
Mm,
This event is 2 years old now, and there has not been a public apology to him. There has not been any type of statement addressing this directly to Patrick Thomas for the public to see. This was a public, event, even though it happened in the workplace, but there's been no mention from, as we said, the former Mayor Venezia, now assemblyman. We also had a transitional mayor who really didn't release any statements on this. And then the current mayor really hasn't done much either, until, this situation was brought public, and now her feet are being held to the fire. And, it's unfortunate because, do I think she was responsible for this? No, but she has been a part of this little administration between Venezia. So, she has definitely been a part of sweeping this under the rug. So we really want to see an apology to firefighter Patrick Thomas, because he deserves that. Amongst everything else is just an acknowledgement that this was wrong and should have never happened to him in a public service work spot.
Justin, I really appreciate you bringing these to light. I know that in full transparency, I've been with all of you, standing in solidarity at the press conference. I attended your public meeting. I even attended the council meeting with all of you. It's been such a beautiful picture seeing Black,
Yeah.
Asian, white folks, young, old, students, folks who are retired, all standing in solidarity. I want to, before we get ready to pivot, I want to ask you one thing. When we were preparing for the community event, when speaking with some of the leaders in the Black citizens of Bloomfield, we got notice that the meeting was potentially almost canceled. And can you shine a little more light on that? What was happening?
Yeah, I can. And I'll be honest with you, there's been a lot of inconsistencies. So, from what we're aware of, about an hour to 30 minutes before the meeting was started, things were already being set up. The college received a phone call telling them that they were not able to host this meeting because we were hosting an anti-fire and anti-police meeting. And I want
Right.
to be very clear with people, that is farthest from the case. Me myself, am a big supporter of having a strong public safety force in our community. So I support police, I support firefighters. They are the backbone. We are supposed to trust these guys. In my Demarest Elementary School yearbook, I actually looked, I had put I wanted to be a cop when I grew up. Now,
Mm,
I didn't pursue that career, but I've always had an admiration for police and firefighters. So for it to be framed like that was really disappointing. And now we have heard different things on who this has come from. From our understanding, this did come directly from our elected officials. They
Wow.
have they have denied that. So,
Hmm.
I don't want to spread any misinformation or say things that I cannot confirm, but we do know that there was somebody from our government who called into the college and told them they could not host this public meeting that was for the community. Luckily, the college did honor that this was a public meeting and a public discussion to discuss racism and how we can move through this. And luckily, the college did allow that event to take place. And like I said, this event had people from all walks of life. We had church ministers there supporting us. We had civil rights activists. We also got to hear from Patrick Thomas's attorney
Yeah.
without him really giving much information away on the case itself, but just there to answer questions and make sure that we as a community, felt assured that Mr. Thomas was getting the right representation. And it was a really beautiful event. We had officers there who were supporting us, who I'm sure would be able to vouch now that this was farthest from
Yeah.
anti-cop,
Yeah. Yeah.
anti-police. We mentioned nothing about that,
Yeah.
especially in this situation. The police, this one wasn't on them. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but as far as our fighter fighters and our police officers in the community, we have a ton of respect for them. However, when situations like this arise, accountability needs to be held.
Yeah. Well, Justin, I'm saddened to hear about the strategy to really silence the community's voice, especially when we are dealing with such a high profile case.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy that you all kept on moving forward. Now, and I'll let you have the last word. How can people get in contact with you? How can they get involved? And final words.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me. Email is the best. My email is justin@justinsellsjersey.com. So that's justin@justin sells jersey.com. You can also follow me on social media. My Instagram is at Justin from the Story. I'm also on Facebook with my name, Justin Bullock. So I love connecting with community members or anybody in this situation who would love to support us. We do have a petition going right now to get these demands met. And I think we're almost at our goal of 1,000 signatures.
Oh,
So
you got 1,000 signatures. All
oh,
right.
we're almost there. We were 88 away this morning, so I am confident that we will be there. Hopefully, if not by the end of today, by at least Monday. So we're really excited for that. But yeah, you guys can reach me email, Facebook, or Instagram if you'd like to stay in touch with me. And my goal for this is just to get justice for firefighter Patrick Thomas. I cannot express. He is a family man. His kids were in the school district. They grew up here. They were a part of our community. And he is a father first, an amazing husband, and that's why he deserves this justice.
Thank you so much, Justin, for talking so positively about Patrick. I got a chance to meet him. Great man, beautiful family, who's heartbroken about this incident, and
Yeah.
he's taking it hard. So, folks, please support Patrick Thomas, support the Bloomfield community, support the Black citizens of Bloomfield, support Justin and all the leaders who are pushing forward. Thank you again, Justice, for being with us.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Folks, as we said, when you really think about this is really sad. Just in 2025, we have to deal with the situation um, of a white officer throwing a noose at a black man. And I know I'm personally affected. I know a lot of people are affected. But I'm also happy that we get a chance to have another member from the community who is here with us. We have Chantilly Mers, who is a community leader, a faith leader, a mother, and someone who's been deeply connected with folks who are doing this work, highlight the injustice. And so we want her to kind of introduce herself, and I also want to ask you, um, as a mother with children in the district, what has been the impact of this incident with you, Chantilly?
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show, Archange. Um, well, first, we moved our family to Bloomfield from the Bronx like 6 years ago, and we were intentional about settling in Bloomfield because it was so diverse, right? I'm part of a really multiracial, multi-ethnic family. My kids are multiracial. My dad's Black, we're Pacific Islander, and my kids are also white, and they're white presenting. So we were very thoughtful about how we wanted to kind of move our family from the Bronx. Um, so when you think about the impact on, a community like this, where we come because we're like, oh yeah, we value diversity and inclusion here. The fact that my kid also goes to Demarest and her best friend is Black and Muslim, and her other friend is Vietnamese, and it's just this sense of, oh yeah, white supremacy is actually far deeply embedded in this community than it sort of first appears. And so when you hear something like this, and you know that it's happening in like the departments of public safety, the firefighters who literally get called in and around our town, and they like park their trucks, and the kids like run up in there and come down on it on the neighborhood block parties. It starts making you feel a little bit more unsafe. Like, I don't know if I can trust the folks who are supposed to be keeping us safe. If something like this not only was tolerated, but there was so much silence around it in our, in the political bodies. And so,
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing. I can only imagine just the impact that has happened to you and your family. Now, for me, we're both faith leaders, we're ministers of the gospel, and we hear all the time that America is this Christian nation, right? About Jesus and God the Father. But then I guarantee you, if we poll some of these folks that we see at the firefighters department, and we poll firefighter Coffee himself, they will claim they were devout Christians or Catholics or Protestants. What's happening with this disconnect of a nation that professes to be Christian doing consistent racist and terrorist acts? What are your thoughts on that?
well, a Christian nation insofar as that it's so embedded in like these white nationalist imaginations, right? Like, in the sense that like to be American is to be white, and to be a good American is to be a white Christian, sort of Bible believing. And what's so ironic about it to me is, we're in the season of like Advent and Christmas, and it's ironic that like we have these like nativity scenes in front of churches and in our communities of like this meek and mild little Jesus, in this manger. And we forget to tell the story, like the real story, that Jesus was a Palestinian Jew, and literally fleeing like a refugee from this murderous campaign that Herod had. And what's interesting in the connection to why I just committed to sort of analyzing the text, but also pushing communities, my community of faith, is to think critically about, now, why would a family just pregnant, why would Mary and Joseph just up and leave and cross borders? Because they were trying to survive, they're trying to be safe. And then we don't also in the text we don't see a lot of it, but it's I'm sure you understand this too. But there's all of these in the political apparatus. It's like you had Herod, who makes this decree and says that it's legal for us to just murder Hebrew babies that ages 1 to 2, and then he teams up with all these religious institutions, the Magi, or who are supposed to be spies. So when I tell the story to my kids, I'm always like, Jesus wasn't meek and mild, okay? Jesus was literally born in the alley because he was pushed out of his hometown. they were chasing him, and there was no room at the inn. People were like, "We don't serve your kind of people here."
Mm.
So that's really the story of Christmas, but we have these really nice, meek and mild nativity scenes around town.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I would say the point is taken. It what we see is that there's been a perversion of who Jesus is, what the gospel calls us to be and to do, especially to the most vulnerable. And when we see firefighters and police officers and public servants who turn their backs on justice, on liberty, on freedom, and perpetuate oppression, suppression, marginalization, but also hold on to the title of Christianity, then we know we are in a problem.
Yeah.
And for me, I love how you articulated it so well. I'm not as articulate. I just teach people to know that everybody who professes to be a Christian is not a Christian. And we have a whole lot of fake Christians out there because there was a point where Christianity was about economic mobility. It was about jobs. It was about survival. It wasn't about a deep spiritual, pious relationship with God and the earth and humanity. And so for me, when you have other folks who are looking at these folks who are supposed to be Christians, why would they want to attend our churches? Why would they want to be a Christian when this is the representation of Christianity? I mean, I have that answer for myself, which is ultimately, we need to be the light. We need to share the truth. We need to be the followers of Christ. However, when I look at this situation and I look at what Patrick Thompson is going through and his family's going through, and I look at all these Christians who are professing to be followers of Christ,
yeah.
I hurt. That's
Yeah, I think why I try to retell the stories in a way where Jesus is really like a political threat is
mm,
is because I think beneath overt acts of racism are covert cultural reinforcing of the narrative. Like
mm,
in the case itself, there are multiple times that Patrick Thomas was called the N-word.
mm,
So it's not even just being called that. It's the fact that people around are silent.
mm,
And silence, that's what part of the narrative is when you're silent, when you don't disrupt, when we don't tell each other, "Hey, that's not funny. That's not okay." Then you breed a culture where it says that that's okay. In given in our current like political climate where white nationalism is on like full force, um, all the more I feel like our community needs to like be very clear. When the mayor says, we don't tolerate these types of racist behavior. Actually, there's actually decades of tolerating,
mm,
decades of silence, decades of bystanders saying, "Oh, I'm not gonna, wouldn't let this happen." And so I think for me as a parent, as somebody who loves Bloomfield, somebody who's going to be in Bloomfield for the next 10, 15, maybe 20 years, I think there's a part of me that's committed to like getting at the root, which is like cultural ish that continues to happen, and the ways that we tell stories and the ways that we sort of sanitize, or I'm going to use that word because we're in the Christmas season and I'm really like intense about the story apparently. um, is that we start like disrupting in a way that we can retell the story and reclaim the narrative and start culturally shifting the way we say that things are okay, because it really does matter. It matters to my kids when my kids are like, "Oh yeah, my friend Mom, please don't pack those pork wontons because my friend's Muslim and I can't share that with her. Like that, like she's learning to love and be respectful and to say like, yeah, I'm gonna adjust my behavior so that I'm more welcoming and inclusive to my friend. I was like, that is so basic, and yet, oh,
Mm,
it's rooted, right? It's rooted in the way
yeah.
we are with one another. So
No, thank you for sharing. Now, there's another way also to look at this, which is the criticism of people of faith participating in public outrage
mm,
and demands to a mayor and a council because we're supposed to be silent. We're
mm,
supposed to be praying for them.
highest.
We're supposed to be forgiving them. We're
Yeah.
supposed to forgive and forget.
Yeah.
And more importantly, allow God to do the justice while we patiently wait.
Yeah, but that's
What is your thoughts
that.
on that framing?
Sorry, I'm interrupting.
Oh, go ahead.
When people say like, "Oh yeah, the separation between church and state," I
Mhm.
was like, "Yo, the country was founded on the church missionizing the state's agenda.
Mm.
Let's not get this twisted, But at the end of the day, for me, if you actually read the text, Jesus was calling things out all the damn time.
Whoa. Who Jesus is this?
you know, First of all, Jesus was a peasant. He was representing like the working class, like literally the peasant class that were feeding the empire grain. So most of the who he's talking to are agricultural workers, people of the field. That's why all of the parables are that way. Sower sows a seed, all of that. But Jesus' best teachings is when he was calling Ish out. He went into the temple knowing that he was going to be apprehended, knowing that he was going to literally be taken, right, mocked and all of that. And he said, like, what are y'all doing in here? Like making money off of poor people.
Mm.
So sometimes I think it's when I talk about I want to reclaim the stories, it's because of that. It's because we don't often read the text when you're white American, wanting to take us back to the good old days. You don't see that you're reading the text as and from the oppressor's lens when the text is written by and for the oppressed.
Mm.
So I think a lot of things, but unfortunately, I'm in public spaces. I'm trying to be conscious. I'm trying to be, curious, observant. But there is a time where people of faith have to um, practice their prophetic tradition, which is speaking truth to power.
Yeah. I
I mean,
I agree with you. I think you said it. Jesus spoke out. Jesus challenged. Jesus was loud with it, especially when it came down to what was happening with what the scriptures call the least of these in the Christian tradition. But I'm still trying to figure out where is this disconnect? How can I actually read this about Jesus, close the Bible, and then say, I need to be silent? I need to be quiet. I need to be respectful. I need to not challenge authority. I need to allow the mayor to do what he's doing. I need to allow and like this justification. Where has the indoctrination and the molding to make Christians who were part of this rebellious group, this
Hmm.
this against the grain movement go from that to we pray, we stay quiet, and
yeah,
we allow
yeah,
God, quote unquote, to do what he's do while we stay silent.
yeah. Like, where's the disconnect? Is the question?
Mhm.
Well, I
Like
think it's because
we see this in Bloomfield,
yes,
right? We see
no,
people who are professing to be people of faith, but where are their bodies? Where are their voices?
yeah,
Where is their
yeah,
spirit?
yeah. I'm gonna just say it in the way that it feels most true to me.
Say it with your chest.
Say it with your full chest. Yo, it only benefits the nation state if we have an apolitical Jesus. It only benefits them.
Lord God. We're
Yes.
about to get in trouble here.
And that's why I'm trying to go back to the meek and mild Jesus in the manger who has rosy cheeks and blonde hair. It's because
Say more about the apolitical. What do you mean by that?
the apolitical
Jesus.
is the Jesus that really came for the moral sins of humanity. Not Jesus who came to overturn the systems and the powers. The Jesus that like, oh, say my individual prayer for my sins so that I can be saved from eternal damnation. Nah, salvation in the text is literally an uprooting of the political and power systems so that those who are the least of these can have all their basic needs. That was the point. The point of the kingdom of God wasn't for us to go to heaven. Sorry, not sorry.
So are you saying that if people rejected the apolitical Jesus and embraced the real Jesus,
you would have to
the
be
powerful
political.
Jesus, you would have to be political, and we would see a group of people, an outrage of people who say that what has happened to Patrick Thompson cannot continue.
No, not only can it not continue, is that we are going to be actively strategizing, coordinating, and co-creating a community where it's not only not tolerated. I want a community where we're like horrified if anyone even says any sort of racial slur, and not only that, we're like looking into our curriculum and our schools and our housing in ways that we continue to disenfranchise and marginalize Black and brown people. The fact that we're still segregated in Bloomfield, that brown and Black people live in my neighborhood, but the white and Asian folks live in the north side of Bloomfield. We have to start asking those critical questions if we actually believe that Jesus was here to try to turn it up so that we could recreate a kind of community that works for the least of these.
You said so much.
I did.
We're going to be called heretics for telling the truth. No, listen, I really appreciate your candor, your honesty, and to be able to have this dialogue in the midst of a crisis happening in Bloomfield. I just hope that folks who are listening or paying attention understand that we are not trying to get you active. We're not trying to get you engaged. What we're saying is, especially specifically to people of faith, it's actually your obligation to be active and engage and to stand and speak up and put your body in line when someone else and their family members are being targeted. That message is so ingrained in all of faith practices about how we treat each other, how we treat our neighbors, how we treat the stranger. And to you, Chantilly, I want to ask you, what does accountability look like for you in Bloomfield? What does the spirit of change look like for you? What is it that you and some of the people that you have been working with want to see happen as we get ready to wrap this up?
Well, the first thing I want to say is that because I do circle work, I do restorative justice work when harm has happened in a community. I do healing circle work, peacemaking circle. But when it comes to accountability, we always start with the person that is harmed, and we ask them, what would accountability or repair or look like for you? And so I'd want to say we want to center Patrick Thomas' livelihood, family, the impact it has on his mental and emotional health, and to really center it on making sure that they're okay. And then there's accountability in the sense of it's going to be important for the community to see themselves, to not wait for people in power to hold themselves accountable, but to see us as community members who are getting organized, strategizing, and coordinated. Because in the end, we are the, how do I say
Help her, Lord.
it? In the end, I think it's we who keep us safe.
Mm.
And that's what I want to say. Like, I'm not waiting for, I don't want to wait for the police or for firefighters, or what I want to do is accountability should be community members holding one another safe, protected, guarded, cared for, and we hold people in power accountable.
Mm.
And to me, it puts the power on us and not waiting for all of these other institutions which only want to protect each other.
Yeah.
Let's not wait for that.
Yeah. Chantilly, I want to thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you for sharing some of your powerful words and just the level of compassion that you have for Patrick Thompson and his family and his community. Big shout out to Casey and Joy and all the other leaders who are working on this. And to New Jersey, I want to encourage you to stay active, stay engaged. Make sure that this is a moment that we cannot stay in our boxes. This is a moment that we must connect with each other through whatever platforms, whatever means. The system is constantly trying to put us at odds with each other, constantly trying to split our communities, divide us up. And we have to do an act of resistance. And every time you talk to someone that you don't traditionally talk to, every time you say hello to someone that you don't usually say hello to, that is an act of resistance. And in the future, based on what we're seeing in our nation, we're going to need each other more than ever. And to our elected sisters and brothers, you have a responsibility to stand up and to speak out and to stand with those who have been victims. In this case of Patrick Thompson, we see so many elected officials in one of the largest counties in New Jersey completely silent. How can you be silent when a noose was being thrown at a firefighter? But then you go back to the community and you want their vote, you want their support, but you're too scared to stand up for what's right. Folks, we got to do different. This is not the moment where we capitulate and we hide and we do politics as usual. We are watching and we are taking notes. You might not live in Bloomfield, you might not live in Essex County, but guess what? The same thing applies to you. Injustice is happening everywhere. We see ICE, we see police departments, we see public safety, we see local domestic terrorists, we see just groups growing out of nowhere thinking they can do anything. And we need our public officials to be ebullient. And if that's not you, and you don't want to step up, and you don't want to speak out, you don't want to go against the grain, you don't want to stand with the victims, then maybe you need to relinquish your seat and give it to somebody else who will do that work. Because this is a moment we need to know who stands with us, not who says the right things only. Thank you so much for being with us in the show. We ask that you continue to pray with us, stand with us, and just be the difference in your community. Love you all. Peace.
Audio Jungle.